Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to your Cancer August 2022 reading and forecast. Hi, I'm Nigel Saint James, for those of you who are stopping by for the first time. And as the subscribers know, there are no advertisements during this content, so you get to enjoy the experience undisturbed. Now, speaking of experience, I've done a number of one-on-one clairvoyant readings for many Cancer sisters and brothers of yours over the course of the last month, and if you'd be interested to have a look to see what might be involved, just have a look at the description box below. Now let's have a look to see what there is in store for you. This is an independent deck. I think many of my decks that I've used in the last few months have been independent. I don't know, everything just seems to run together for me. Time. Now, let's draw 5 cards. That's something I do know. So let's see what they are for you, shall we? There is the 10 of Swords. Here is the 5 of Swords. Here is Compassion, number 20. Here is the 8 of Cups. And finally, one more. That's all we need here, isn't it? See what this might be. And there is number 16, Kali. The goddess Kali will be familiar to the audience in India. Now, why don't you do, as is normal, come down here, sit down next to me. We'll have a good close look at the cards together while I do your reading for you. Then now I think you can see those. We'll have a look at this central card here first up. Then we'll look at Kali. Then we're going to look at the 10 of Swords, then the 5, and then the 8. Unless I change my mind. Let's see. Let's have a look here. What have we got in Compassion? And incidentally, what does it say here? Transcending judgment. Is that right? Well, have you got anything that you can say about that, Nigel? I think we might have a go in this respect that to me anyway, this is a painting where the goddess of compassion takes the form of a willow tree. You know, trees are natural purifiers, aren't they? She is purifying the rejecting attitudes and judgments that cause so much suffering and lock us into a state of separation. It is compassion that liberates the tormented souls that are in the background here. Do you see in here? You probably can. These people locked in here, these tormented souls. Well, compassion liberates those souls and soothes the torment in you. It spirals out from the heart in a universal embrace of that which is in need of healing. Now, because you have drawn this card, it is a good time to look at how your judgmental attitudes cause suffering and to practice cultivating compassion. Now, those of you who are familiar with Major Arcana number 20 will know that traditionally this card has been called Judgment. And the image has often been depicted as the last judgment of the Christian tradition. Well, I want to move away from this context while staying true to what is perhaps its innermost core, the process of separating out sin. And what I mean by sin is that which is off the mark, that which is pushing you outside of the path of what your destiny might be, so that you might return to your natural state of goodness. So rather than push away and reject that which is off the mark, I think your lesson is, funnily enough, to lovingly embrace it. Now, to do this, you have to transcend judgment in the way that you usually know it. You have to stop saying, this is right and this is wrong. You know, that English genius playwright, William Shakespeare, in one of his plays, Hamlet in Act 2, Scene 2, said, "For there is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so." Well, the mind sees what is wrong with someone, while the heart, looking through the eye of love, sees what is right. It sees the other's basic goodness and how their cruel, distorted, or unskillful behaviors are simply a product of their conditioning. If you can put yourself in other people's shoes and really understand what they've been through, what influences have squeezed and hardened them, you will feel much more accepting. Doesn't mean to say that they're right, but you can accept it, and you will see how far actually they have come, rather than how far they fall short of the standards in your mind. So one way to cultivate compassion then is to develop your capacity to see other people more clearly. Another powerful way is to see your own mind more clearly. If you watch carefully, you'll notice how judgments arise from defensiveness, disappointment, and from seeing only the surface of the situation and not the entire picture. Well, then we'll have a look at Kali, and it's called Shattering the Structure. Kali. Well, as everybody in India knows, Kali is the most powerful form of Shakti, that primordial, cosmic energy that penetrates the universe. She is also the consort of Shiva, the third person of the Hindu trinity of Brahman, Vishnu, and Shiva, where Shiva is the destroyer and the rebuilder. Now again, this card is traditionally called the Tower in Major Arcana in most decks, and it's depicted by a tower being struck by a bolt of lightning or something like that. Here, in fact, it is Mars, and actually here we have a depiction of Mars sitting above it, coincidentally. Mars in his most aggressive form, in full attack mode, coming in to break down those things in you which are false to fact or which do not represent your path, your spiritual path forward. And if we have a look at the painting again, you see that this strikes me as interesting. You see that this band which runs along there through the middle of the picture, well, that represents, I think, both the ego mind and traditional civilization. The fact that Kali is larger than this band reminds you that the forces of creation and destruction are much larger than the band of ordinary reality that we are usually aware of. Creation and destruction have a mind of their own, and ego has little control over that. Now this star that's near the bottom here, that represents the dynamic energy of the universe, the essential Kali energy that is always in motion. I think this has turned up as a reminder that you must learn to honor the creative function of destruction. An old pattern is broken up. Now, I'm going to get to that in just a second. But here is an old pattern being broken up so that a new pattern can be formed. It can take a big force to break up certain patterns, and she's here to help. She's here to help you and overcome the change that's going on with here. Now, for a number of reasons, it's difficult to break up certain patterns. Now, look, yet even factors such as the length of time that something's been going on or the love inherent in a pattern, they can make it hard to change things, can't they? A stable, longer-term marriage or a well-established tradition are examples of things that are not easily dissolved. Naturally, sudden, unexpected changes in patterns can be painful and disorienting. It can feel as if the ground is being pulled out from underneath you. And in some respect it is. Kali, you see, she comes in as an earthquake. Now, because you've drawn this card, it generally says that there's going to be a change of this sort of thing going on. So try not to avoid it. Try not to try to avoid it, but to honor the greater wisdom of Kali, and to remember that what looks like destruction is actually part of a larger process of creation. The challenge is to hold the both and. Both are true. Now, it can hurt, and the pain is serving a larger process. Look, sudden, unexpected change is often experienced as a trauma, so be gentle with yourself. It is important to support the body in dealing with any trauma that comes about. Now, this is nothing groundbreaking, right? But these things can come about. And also deal tenderly with the scared inner child and the grappling adult. Now, when the ground of your life does get shaken, this earthquake that she brings, it's valuable to re-establish contact with the earth and to stay grounded in your body. Now, I said I was going to do this Ten of Swords then, didn't I? Leaving the story. Okay. Let's have a look. Leaving the story. Let's have a look at the image. What does the painting tell us? Well, here, the layers of the canyon reflect the layers of your story and how deep it is. At the bottom, down here, is a core pattern that you are organized around. It is illuminated here by the light of awareness. Now, these birds which are ascending, they are a symbol of leaving the pattern. The fact that they rise in a spiral reminds you that your work on your patterns is something that you do again and again. It is easy to get discouraged by this and forget that you are indeed moving forward. It helps to remember that this may be a pattern you've been living out for many lives, and that changing the pattern is a major part of your life's work. It is as if each time you identify with the story, you get sucked back down into an energy vortex, and each time you disidentify, you rise to a higher and freer perspective. Freedom is getting out of the canyon and out of the ruts of the mind that have obstructed the openness of your true nature. Now, the number 10 is the beginning of a new pattern. The Ten of Swords is about mental patterns, although we must remember that mental patterns can also involve feelings. Thoughts, they can create feelings, can't they? And feelings themselves, they generally, we think about the feeling, about the emotion, don't we? A feeling comes into focus within a particular context that gives it meaning. Now, thoughts, feelings, and self-images are the stuff of mental patterns. Now, to understand how you free yourself from patterns, you must understand how you get stuck in them. Patterns are like mental grooves. The more often your thoughts and feelings go down certain channels, the deeper those grooves become. You think the same old thoughts and have the same old feelings. The deepest of these complexes is sometimes referred to as our story, because you have run this story again and again. It is not just a groove, it's more like a pit, a giant hole that you can easily fall into. And the further you fall into the pit, the harder it is to get out. Being aware of when a particular sequence first starts, well, that allows you to avoid automatically falling into the pattern and to find other options. The pattern has ended when you no longer fall into the pit, but rather negotiate your way around it. This is liberation. You leave the story behind, realizing that it is just a story, just one of many possible ways to arrange your experience. It helps you to step out of a pattern generated and maintained by the mind if you can step more fully into the present moment, focusing on your body, and particularly the animating presence within your body. Well, that's one way to anchor yourself to the here and now. Presence supports what is, and whatever is false then just disappears away into the mists. Now, sometimes the things that cloud our minds and that we ruminate on in the past, they revolve around the little things we could have said or done. Look, this is what you need to understand. And it's this, that despite what you may believe, you can disappoint people and still be good enough. You can make mistakes and still be capable and talented. You can let people down and still be worthwhile and deserving of love. Everyone has disappointed someone they care about. Everybody messes up, lets people down, makes mistakes. Not because we are inadequate or fundamentally stupid, but because we are imperfect and fundamentally human. And expecting anything different is setting yourself up for failure, because nobody is perfect. So bear that in mind when we look at this card here as well, which is the Five of Swords. Holding the vision. Let's see now. Okay. Hello, vision. I'm holding you. What are you saying to me? Look, I think that like the warrior in this image, whom you can see here, there's his head, he's got a bow that you can see. I'll just point it out. You can obviously see it, but just to make sure of it. You've got to aim at something which is beyond this dragon. You see, there's the dragon's head, and there's its wings. And you've got to hold to that vision. Now, the five-pointed star, which is here, has very often been used as a symbol of excellence and power and for warding off evil. It means all of these things here, I think, as well as representing a higher truth. It is the higher truth you must hold to, even when you can't immediately contact it just at the moment. Now, again, swords. The suit of swords is difficult, but being in the suit of swords, this energy focuses on the demons of the mental realm of doubt, confusion, pessimism, defeatist thinking. And it's easy to get lost in these. For example, nothing can drain you of motivation more effectively than doubt. This is what doubt often does. It stops you from moving ahead, from taking risks, from expanding. Now, to be a warrior means to doubt your doubt, rather than automatically believe your doubting thoughts. You look carefully at why this doubt might be coming up right now. Now, the attitude of the warrior is to believe in the truth, believe in the higher vision, to have faith. Even though you might be flooded by darkness in the moment, questioning everything, you can remember earlier moments of knowing and try to honor what the ancient wisdom traditions have taught you. Now, another tendency of mind, represented by the dragon, I think, is the temptation to get caught up in power trips. Being in a position of authority and power over others is a great seduction for most egos. Now, it can make us feel big and important. It can also be based on the false belief that the more control we have, the safer we will be. But this isn't necessarily so at all, is it? Surrendering to a higher power brings an umbrella of protection as well as guidance about what is worth fighting for and how to most skillfully accomplish it. Now, this star represents the authentic power which the spiritual warrior aims for. Negative beliefs are also part of the dragon, and the warrior must slay this dragon, because if deep down you believe that you are powerless and your efforts are futile, that the world is withholding from you, or that you are somehow bad and undeserving, then these thoughts will undermine your actions in the world and make it difficult to claim your true power. I'll tell you something about power. If you don't have power, but you believe you do, then you have power. If you have power, but you don't believe you do, then you don't have power. So I think what this energy is saying, that this is a time for you to do battle with the negative tendencies of mind and start by looking objectively at what is happening. Are you caught in doubt, confusion, and what old beliefs are holding you back? Remember, though, that word that came through. You are human, and nobody is perfect. And that takes us finally, I think, is it finally? Yes. Let's have a look at this, which is the Eight of Cups. Now, the astrology of this is Saturn in Pisces. And Saturn can weigh down peaceful, spiritual Pisces and prevent it from expressing its emotionality and its spirituality. I think that human doing. This card is about getting over involved in doing. Now, your experience of being gets lost when you put too much emphasis on doing, whether in work, in hobbies, in activities, or achievement. Instead of being a human being, well, you sort of become a human doing instead, don't you? Now, this pattern, like all patterns, usually begins early when, as children, we feel that the only thing that brings attention or praise is because of what we can do. The message is that our value is related to accomplishment, and that gets deeply embedded in our consciousness. Now, this can lead to taking on the strategy known as, well, what the psychologists call the industrious overfocus, which is characterized by working very hard, becoming a workaholic, and resisting distractions. Now, under stress, people with that pattern, well, they work even harder. They feel great pressure to perform and to make things perfect. They stick like glue to a task when really what is needed is to be able to leave the task and to renew, to regenerate, because without this regeneration, those who are over-focused, they just burn out. And you do a lot, but when you focus excessively on accomplishment, maybe are you too busy to feel? This may be one motivation that keeps the strategy going. If you are a compulsive doer, you may be afraid of feeling empty inside or feeling emotional discomfort. The busyness keeps you from noticing how disconnected you are from yourself, from spirit, and from others. And I mean this with great respect, incidentally. What happens is that there can end up being a lonely experience and a lonely existence, avoided by frantic activity and focused work. Now, of course, this emphasis on accomplishment and staying busy are totally reinforced in our culture today, aren't they? People are expected to work all the time, and take work home. Even school children are weighed down with classroom assignments and extracurricular activities. And as a culture, we've gone so far into doing that what we seriously do is neglect being. And this results in a mechanical nature that is portrayed here, I think, by this painting. Here is a man who feels like a cog in a wheel with a very lonely inner child. Now, I think that this has come up because it's a good time for you to look at your relationship with doing. Remember to include not just paid work, but other activities as well. Some people become compulsive about housekeeping or gardening when there is really always more that can be done. That isn't that these activities are bad. The question is how are you using them? Do you get nervous if you suddenly have some free time on your hands? Are you afraid to stop and feel? Do you use activity to cover up a sense of emptiness or disconnection? Look, the focus on this card, and again, I'm saying this with great respect to you this month, but the focus is on underlying motivations and your relationship with being. And if you sense that doing is disconnecting you from being, it's time to stop and tune in once again. I loved doing that reading for you. Great job. That's the way it is for you this month. What a fascinating reading. I'm sure you will agree. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I enjoyed providing it to you. I really look forward to doing your reading each month, I really do. Truly I do. And, I send you some good energy, the subscribers, throughout the month, which you will feel from time to time. So don't worry, I'm always thinking of you. You are never alone. Now, until I see you again, remember one thing, and one thing is this, that you are a legend, and I look forward to seeing you again next month. And until then, it's bye for now.